and I'll call on you to unmute, and then we want you to share what you did with your action plan. So our first one is Scott.
Okay, so it went by quick, all right? The ultimate goal in this is retention of membership. The first action task is to create a new lead for onboarding, and probably do that by November of 2020, given that we set a July 2021 in for this. Who is in the lead for this? We talked briefly about Randy.
And since he's not, is he here?
He was here, okay.
He left, so that means he's automatically appointed.
Or he knew he would be appointed and therefore left.
No, Randy had some outpatient surgery on his neck today. And he said, I'll come, but I don't know if I can last the whole meeting. So that's what's going on with him.
So creating a new lead, because we need someone to lead the project, to oversee it. Second action task would be to assign a mentor to new members. Through that, what needs to happen, resources needed, we need to create a list of members who are interested in being mentors. And in the lead, Randy Johnson would assign those mentors as needed. Next task, this is the third one, arrange a meeting with the committee chairs to provide new members with a onboarding, training, orientation to the various committees, in which they would pick one from there. The fourth action task would be to meet with the foundation chair, who is Bob Browning, for a better understanding, orientation to the foundation. The fifth task would be to meet with a long-term standing member, like Steve Schellen, or Mike Crumbo, or Jim Kopp. So for a history on the club and a deeper understanding of Rotary and the mission and vision of the club. The sixth is to create ways to make new members feel welcome. And one of the resources needed for that would be to redo the membership application for our club so that it captures more data, more attributed related data on and personal information, so that the membership can receive that and better welcome those new members. And that is where we ended, unless anyone else on my committee would like to jump in.
Okay. Well, thank you. That was pretty detailed. You had 6 steps there. All right. Steve, you want to do your action plan?
Yeah, I'm going to make sure I have 7 steps because we want to beat them. In the same way, we said establish a new member team leader, and that leader then will develop the best process to establish a team to join her or him. And we did not put a name on that because we were sure Scott Horvath wanted to do it. Then we said the team, rather than all of the different groups, the team would establish content for the orientation. And then thirdly, present that content first to the board for approval of the content. And once first for edits and then approval of the content. Then fourthly, the team then would create a rotation among their team for orientation based on the number on the team. So for instance, if there are 4 people on the team, then they would create a 4-person rotation, and then And then perhaps every 3 months, those who've joined in the last 3 months would then go through the orientation with the person on the team whose turn it is to handle that. Fifth, and we evaluated the resources question, and that just became to us, again, the content of the orientation sessions. We would have included in those orientation sessions then the things that Scott mentioned in terms of the foundation, in terms of committee assignments, etc. Our schedule would be that we would want the leader and the team established by January of 2021, the draft of the content to be presented to the board by March 2021, with board approval of the content by April of 2021. And then we would implement the first group in May of 2021. And our first outcome would be that all members who have joined our club in the past year would be in the first orientation group in May.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, Mike.
Yeah, let me hang on. Okay, you can hear me okay. I'm going to flip over to another screen. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, one of the things, the first thing we started on is the first thing that happens with a new member once they're approved is we do an induction at the club. We felt that we needed to review that whole issue of the induction. The lead on that is the president of the club at the time because they do the actual induction ceremony. The other helper is the sponsor of the new member, and that the resources needed are the member packet. And while there is an existing member packet in Rotary, we may need to take another look at that whole packet about as far as design. Second is assigning a mentor to the member, and that's the membership chair's role. And who else will help with that, of course, is the mentor who ends up being assigned. And what we found we needed was an onboarding packet here, which does not exist today. And so our next step was developing an onboarding packet. And we felt that the membership community needed to take a look at that with the help of the board, because ultimately the board's going to need to approve it, and the board needs to have input in order to make that happen. And that is a part of the roadmap for a new member's orientation and lead into to assignments to committees and other things. Now, we sort of ran out of time because we had a lot of discussion on these. One of the issues, I'm going to add this issue that came up, was being able to find other members of the club. And that led us to the next item, which was a direct orientation in the use of our database, which is DACDB, the district and club database, which provides all of the information for every club member. In fact, any club member who's a part of the DACDB system. We had not gotten to a point, let me say, we had not gotten to a point of trying to assign a time, because we were still trying to flesh out the tasks themselves in some semblance of order here. But we did review the fact that we used to have an orientation meeting with all of the club members and their spouses invited to a fellowship gathering, where we went over some items of the club's structure and terminology and things of that nature. And while it was useful for the new member, it became redundant for the members of the club. And so we think that that needs to be separated from our fellowship activities. That was a side note, but an important one, I think.
Okay. Thank you all for those creative action plans. As you see, there's not really one way to do it. There can be many creative ways to accomplish a goal. The major point, though, is to have a plan, to have the tasks that you need, to assign someone to those tasks, to be able to say, well, what resources do we need? And then when are we going to get this done? Each little task needs time frame for it. So as you see, you can create an action plan within a small amount of time. Let's go on now because we are going to talk about the next steps. Now that you've had some experience with those action plans, Laura, what are the next steps?
Thank you, Rita. Okay, so your top ideas in each area become the basis for your master plan. Who will you get to list the ideas compiled by the scribe? We will send those to you as soon as we have everything together. So you will get that soon. So the very first one, who's going to accept the report of ideas identified during your club visioning? Who will do that? Bob, I saw your hand waving. Okay. Okay. When? How quickly? Unmute.
Whenever you get them to us, I mean, I'll do it right away as soon as we get it. So I'll just submit them out. So
Within 24 hours, 48 hours?
yes, within 24 hours of the time I get them, they'll go back out. So
Okay, all right. So our next step is next you will create your club's statement of purpose, your motto, tagline, slogan, or whatever feels right to you. Often this comes from the questions about what does your club stand for and what are your club attributes. Now, typically this is done with a committee of about 5 that brings the recommendations back to the club as to what your motto will be. So who will lead this committee? This is not a one person. Who will lead the committee? Sandy? Okay, Sandy, great. Who is going to help her? Bob and what is it? Oh, okay, Bob. We've got Bob and Sandy. Do we have Greg? Greg,
Yes, there we go.
Greg,
Thank you.
Thank you. Evan. Okay, we've got Evan as well. Okay. Is the purpose statement, wait a minute, David. Is the purpose statement different than the mission statement?
No, it's whatever you want to call it.
Semantics. Do we have one more person that would like to help with this? Jim, great. Okay. All right, Jim. Okay. When do we want to get this done? So when can you meet for the first time? Bob is going to get the information out to you within 24 hours after he gets it. So when will be the first time all of you can meet? Sandy, what do you think?
I'm thinking by the end of next week.
Okay, so let's look at a calendar and let's put a date on that. The end of next week is the 9th of October. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the 9th of October. All right, our next step is you will need to decide how to develop a process for generating the master plan using each of the top ideas. This is
Laura, I think we skipped number 3.
Yeah, and I think before we go on, I'm sorry, David had his hand up and I didn't want to miss. David, did you want to be on the committee as well?
Oh, excuse me, David.
If there's room, I could be on the second committee, but I think Jim beat me to the punch. So, but I'm willing to help if needed.
Well, David, I apologize for missing your hand, and the more the merrier.
Okay, thank you. No worries.
Let me say that I'm in the process of coming back to Indiana, but that process is probably going to go through next week. So, David, maybe you should take my place.
I'll take you off.
Fair enough. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Okay, Jim, do you want to lower your hand so we'll know that you're not volunteering right now for our?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do
I
that.
got it for you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So we want to schedule a club assembly to share what has happened. The main thing is this has been a group effort, and we do not want just one person doing it. We want a group to put this together at the club assembly. So what group would like to do that? We need to gauge the club. So Steve, we have your hand. So Steve's a part of this.
Tell me where we are. I had to get off for a minute there with my mother. What's the?
What, Charles, what we're doing right at the moment, we are at the next phase where we are scheduling when things are going to be done to submit it to the club, to come up with a mission statement. And so we're just at the towards the final phases of going forward with your club and letting your club understand what's happening.
Okay. I think Steve's a great choice.
So who would like to help Steve? Sandy is president. Would you like to be a part of this as well?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Bob is also a part of that. Do we have anyone else that would like to be a part of that? Okay. Greg, I saw your hand. Okay. All right. I lost my place.
When will we do that? When will you have a club assembly, Sandy?
Thank you, Rita.
Or any time that you want to present the results would be just fine. Do you know your calendar?
Yeah. Mike Crumbo is our program person.
Yeah,
But
we're booked up to the 21st, and that's our polio program, but we're open on the 28th.
I wonder if we could do the polio program and this in the same club assembly or not.
Probably not.
We
You need to
encourage
make
you not to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, then the 28th would be the next
October.
meeting.
Okay.
And may I ask, and Sandy, I believe, if I'm looking at it correctly, that would be an in-person meeting. Is that correct?
I'm looking. Just lost it. All right. Well, okay, if we're going every other week, the 30th tomorrow is in person, and then Zoom on the 7th, 14th it would be a Zoom meeting. And the 28th would be in person. Yes, you're right. Sorry.
And what exactly is going to be shared at this meeting here? I mean, obviously, we won't be through the whole process yet by then. I don't think.
We have a PowerPoint template, and on the PowerPoint template,
okay,
what is a little bit about what you did here at the visioning, and then all the results in all the areas that you visioned in.
Okay.
And then you ask for the commitment of your club to go ahead and move forward with those ideas that you would share that day.
Okay.
And so asking for their help to volunteer to help you to develop those action plans.
Good. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so we have 1028, that will be completed. So at this point, you need to assemble your president's development team to identify the process, develop your action plans. Rita, would you like to explain that a little bit better to them?
Sure. This is a time when you assemble this group and you decide on a way that you're going to move those goals forward. So this group will be actually developing a process, not the whole plan, not the master plan, not the action plans. You will be developing the process by which you develop that master plan and those action plans. For example, you might say, okay, these 3 ideas have to do with foundation. Let's give that to the foundation chair, and he can have his committee work on a goal for those 3 ideas and then the action plans for those 3 ideas. That's only one way. You will develop a process like that.
This is what I'm thinking. I'm trying to be realistic. We have 32 members, and due to health reasons and the pandemic and people who live elsewhere, we have right now probably 24 active members that come to the meetings regularly. So I'm thinking, is it the president's development team there? Is it necessary to create another group to do that, or can the board do that?
The board can do that. Yes, that's up to you. It's any way that you all want to get a group of people together to develop that process.
What do you guys think?
I agree, Sandy. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, we got, we know that board's committed, okay? So they'll carry through the process, so I'm okay with that.
I'm on board with it too.
Okay, Sandy, would you like to tell us who's on the board that you want to put in the blanks here?
Sure. David and Charles and Bob and Evan. And I mean, if it's our entire board, are we good with the entire board?
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg and Scott. And then we have Jack Rubish, who was here last night. And we have Ido Parat, E-I-D-D-O, P-O-R-A-T. And then Leanne Wilbur. And Ido is just I-D-D-O. It's not E. Yeah. Thank you. I got everybody?
Okay. So,
And Sandy, you will be getting a guide so that it will explain more about how to make this function, that process.
Okay.
So you'll be getting a guide. Laura will send that to you.
All right. Sounds good.
So we've scheduled the club assembly, which is 10/28. So when will we develop this committee? When will you start working on that?
I'm assuming it's after the club assembly presentation, correct?
So when is the next board meeting after the club assembly?
We meet on the 3rd Tuesday. So I'm looking at my calendar here. So it looks like the 20th of October.
Okay.
After,
that would be November, because that would be October.
You're right.
When you're going to the assembly.
Correct. So that would be November the 17th.
Okay. Okay. Now, here we go. Who is the one person or a group of you that will be willing to be the club vision champion, or what it could also be called an impact group? Not doing everything. That is not your role, but making sure the club keeps moving forward with this vital work. Now, of course, the champion or the group of champions job is actually for the next 3 years because your vision is a 3-year vision. So who do you think is going to be that right person or group of people to be the champions?
I think Randy Johnson should be involved there if he's willing.
I spoke to Randy about that because I think Sandy kind of didn't appoint me, but suggested I might want to do this. And I reached out to Randy since he did it last time, and he's anxious to help us for sure.
Okay.
So I can do it. Randy is willing to help with that as well. I don't have to do it. Trust me, I got plenty of other things going on in my life, but I'm more than willing to do this if we need it. But Randy for sure will be involved, he said. So
Well,
I'm
Randy's
back.
here.
I'm back now.
Okay, good.
And yes, I'm happy to do that.
Do you want one person or do you want multiple people? We have Mike's hand raised. It's completely your call.
I think Mike would be a great one.
I think multiple people make sense.
Okay. So Randy, you're willing to take this on. Mike, your hand being up, does that mean you're willing to be part of this group?
That's an affirmative answer, yes.
Good. And Bob, you are as well. So
yes, yeah.
it's always easier to make something happen when more than one person is doing it. Are we happy with 3 people or do we have another?
I think 3 is good.
Okay, all right. And that, of course, is for the next 3 years. It's not a one and done. So you have your team. Okay, wonderful. So you have your master plan with goals to accomplish over the next 3 years. Now you need to have a process by which the action plan for each of those goals will be created. We encourage you to give this task to your committees. After presenting the results, remember, when the committee generates its own plan, is more likely to follow through with that plan. A post-club visioning guide will be sent to the president to help with developing your master plan and action plans. After everything developed, be sure to send your master plan to your assistant governor and to your district governor so they can support you in the process that you've achieved. So do we have the evaluation now?
So Jill, send up the poll.
Okay, everybody, so here's our poll. Here's our first question. And we do need your input. This is very important. I found the club visioning experience to be beneficial in seeing where a club can be in 3 years, and we have the tools to make it happen. Absolutely, somewhat, or not really helpful. 100% is, what did we, have we, okay, we haven't ended polling yet.
Right.
I get so excited when doing polling, so I always blab it before it happens. It's what I do. It just is. The second one is, I found the virtual visioning experience to be preferred over on-site, as effective as on-site, or less effective than on-site session. The third one is, I found the technology helpful, neutral, difficult to navigate. The fourth one is, I found the visioning facilitators to be very engaging, somewhat engaging, or difficult to engage with. So your honest answers are always helpful.
And then push submit.
Thank you, Rita.
I think we have just about everyone's answers, so we're going to go ahead and stop the poll.
Okay.
Do we want to
So-
share the results, or are we okay?
Found
We'll
the, what? Go ahead.
Are we going to share, or we'll just hang on to this for our feedback? So, thank you.
Okay.
So go ahead and turn it over to Tom for our last closing words.
Well, thank you very much, Rita. This has been really exciting for our visitation group. You've come up with many ideas that can help engage your club members. This is just the beginning of the process. Your club will go through the next few years to have a greater impact here and around the world. I encourage you as you formulate your plans to share it with the community. This can be done in your local newspaper, on the social media that you may be using, maybe at City Hall, maybe at the community center or local churches. In all these places where your community gathers. If the initiative in your plan is relevant to your community, your plan becomes a recruiting tool. In your publicity, you would state something like this: the Rotary Club of Greenwood, White River has come together, and this is what we are working on over the next few years. Chances are there are others in your community who would like to work on some of your initiatives. So make sure you let them know how to contact you as part of helping your plan come to fruition. Finally, congratulations and thanks for participating in the future vision for your club. As we stated earlier, by doing this, you choose to be a part of making your community a better place to live, something that Rotary does all the time. I'm sure you had other things that you could be doing, but you chose to spend your time here. Many thanks. And don't hesitate to contact us if we can be of any assistance as you move forward. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, facilitators. We appreciate it. We've got a good plan. We've got a good team. So good job.
Thank you all.